Okay, attempt number 2 on going live. Don't know what to expect ever, so here we are. I'm just kind of get started. Today I am making a mouse plush with a strawberry theme to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add strawberry seeds to my material. Using this as a backing. Let's see, we've notified viewers. I'm going to do my best to watch the screen this time. It's kind of hard because I really don't know what to expect. I thought there was going to be like chimes, but I never know. I don't know anything. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to add some strawberry seeds here. So I'm just going to do a little bit of light embroidery. Hey there, I think I just saw you, Akua. I'm pretty sure this is the mouse that you requested. So hopefully I do a good enough job on it. Okay. We're going to do a few settings for... Oh, I need to make sure I get everything in the right direction though. What I want to do is have the seeds going downwards. So I just centered my needle. Got my backing on here. Give myself just a little bit of zigzag. I'm going to give myself no spacing, so let's see what we got here. I need to... Each step has to be done just a little bit differently. So I'm actually going to back stitch one, just to get the thread to stay. Set my zigzag. All right, let's see what this does. Co-host, don't show. I'm not really interested in whatever the co-host thing is. Okay, and let's test this out. See if this is going to work as a nice little seed. I'm going to, like I'm doing an applique, close the stitch off just a little bit. Okay. Let's see how this works. Now the idea is that I'm just doing a little bit of an embroidery piece that so it looks like a seed on the red. I've done this before with a totally different design. So that's roughly what we're going to do. We're going to put several little dots, a little bit random. I know that a strawberry is going to have less random. It's going to be probably within the nature of things. But for what I'm doing, it's just a little bit safer to do a little bit random. Turning each time because the needle goes left and right. And I'm not trying to do very much of a distance, but after I set the thread, I want to do just a couple just enough to get it to completely show. And then what I'm doing between each one is I am then resetting my needle stitch so that it doesn't have any spacing on it. Now the intention here is to keep it from unraveling, especially since it's going to be a plush and I don't want someone to be able to accidentally work it loose while they're petting it. And let's give it a look-see. Yeah, I think that'll work. Give us some little strawberry seeds. Do it across the whole thing. This is actually going to make this quite a bit of a longer process. Normally I could already be like 2 or 3 pieces in when it comes down to it. But that's the whole point of custom orders, is the ability to do new things for people. I'm setting my... Doing it just a little bit of a pull. I really should count it so that I'm doing the same each time. And I probably will as time goes on. Additionally, I don't have to pull it out anymore now that I know that I like the way it looks. I just have to make sure I get my thread pulled back. I don't know if it's easier to do it this way rather than cut it between each stitch. I do it because it feels like it saves some thread, and got to be frugal in all the ways that I possibly can. All right. I'm going to get my needle down in the same spot. Now what I'm doing is when you do an applique or an embroidery, I have, from what I can tell, you start off by setting the thread with a straight stitch. And then what you'll do is you'll go back over that with your zigzag and put your design into it, whatever the case may be, whether it be applique or whatever. And then when you finish it, you do the same thing. That way it doesn't come untied. It's essentially tying it off when you do that. That may not be the exact terminology for it. Hopefully I'm not yelling in your ear, by the way. It may not be the exact terminology for it, but that's kind of how I describe it. And then let's see, that was 3. Oh, didn't count it fully. I think that's a good number of seeds here. Now, I kind of set myself up doing this a little bit late. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to finish this on time before I have to go. Got to pick up my son from school. But I probably should have done all of this on most of them before now and just kind of cleaned it up, or did one live. Sorry, hopefully it's not too boring. Try to set the camera angle so that you guys can actually see things here. So we'll see how that works out. But here is the look. Now, because of the rounded body, I'm pretty confident that I'm going to have a strawberry shape. And I'm also going to be adding some leaves to it when I get there far. But a little random. That seems like should work pretty well. Now I have to do that too. Pretty much everything else. I may skip the face a bit. And the reason is because it's such a small space and I already don't have much to work with because of the eyes and the nose. So I'm going to probably skip the face, which will be these 3 pieces, and the back of the head. So it's going to be the ears, the body. That's not too horrible. Of course, I'm not cutting my support with my fabric scissors. I don't know if you know that or not, but I've been told that never use fabric scissors for anything but fabric. And I'm not sure how viable that is, but I've heard it all my life. And I have not been sewing my whole life, so the fact that I've heard it for so long seems to suggest it's a real thing. Let's see. I don't have the ability to turn on notifications, so if there's anything I miss, I do apologize. I really am just trying to figure out this whole going live thing. And I know that part of that is going to be missing out on a lot of little conversations. I've got it set so people can message me. I just have no idea how to tell when they are messaging me. All right, just a little bit of extra thread so it's easier to pull up. Another random spot. Couple stitches. All right. Fix my stitch again. I know it's not super exciting. I know that some of these parts are, I mean, there's nothing to be said about it. It's just the work. Once you kind of get into it, though, it's a little bit more fun. But I can't imagine it being a whole lot of fun to watch. So feel free to tell me what I can do to make this better. Maybe talk about some movies or something like that. The downside is, again, since I can't see when I'm getting messages, I'm just kind of randomly looking at the screen. And who knows what kind of conversations I'll miss out on. I'm really hoping that I'm not making these seeds too big. Some of it I might not know until I get done. And I can always pull them out. That's another thing. The way this is done, I can always go through and seam rip and retry. And I know that something that holds a lot of people back is the idea of messing up. And I've let that happen to me far too many times, so I've just kind of learned how to fix my mistakes more than trying to avoid making mistakes. Of course, I don't want to make a mistake, but the point is that once you learn how to fix your mistakes, it's a lot easier to learn how to just kind of roll with it. And let's go ahead and put one more up here on this leg. Now, I also have to keep in mind when I'm doing this that I have to make sure that I don't put any of these seeds too close to the edge. Not only will they disappear, but they'll make it harder to sew when it comes time to actually making the mouse. And that in itself would be kind of annoying. I should have left a mouse here with me so I can show you guys periodically what I'm doing. I'm going to do that real quick. I'm back. All right, so for anyone that's curious, these are what I'm making. Little mice. They're set up to be worn so that you can wear them on hair clips or hair pins. Have a little loop here, and you can wear them as a keychain. This guy's probably not going to stay on the screen very much just because I'm actually working here. But that's what I'm doing. Just a different custom version of one. All right, time to clean all this up. Let's see. Anybody say anything? Nothing yet so far. Everyone coming in, I really appreciate you stopping by. I have a feeling that most people that stop by are just going to be looking and then running off. And that's totally cool. I get it. First off, sewing is not super exciting. Secondly, when you come by on TikTok, you're just trying to entertain yourself. But if you feel like stopping by, feel like saying anything, message me. I will do my very best to check in. And even if I don't hear, I will try and find a way to reply afterwards, maybe. All this learning all at one time. All right, so that's the body done. I'm also trying to work quickly. Figure if I can get everything done at a decent pace, at the very least, I'm keeping up with my work because these are all custom orders. And sometimes I feel like I'm just falling way behind on custom orders. All right, so when I cut my ears, I always put a little mark on the top. That way I know the top. You might think that because it is a different shape that it's easy to tell. Well, when you are actually working with something this small, sometimes it gets so hard to tell where everything's at. I've learned how to mark a lot of different things that I didn't think I needed to at first. And it has helped me a lot. These mice are my own design. I created them. I failed at making them. I spent a lot of time figuring out how I wanted them to look. And in the end, this was how I landed. All the little things that I've learned. Oops, let's go ahead and reset here. And if you're just stopping by and you're curious as to what I'm doing with these little spots, I am actually making a strawberry mouse. I know that I'm going to be repeating myself a lot, but with people stopping in, possibly looking curious as to how I'm wasting your time, that's the intention. I figure a little keep up every now and then. Now, I am working on figuring out how to release the patterns for this. I'm torn because what happens is I make these things. I design these things. It's something that I've done myself. But I don't want to have to make every single one of them, so I figured it's got to be a lot of fun to see what other people make with it. And then that also means that I have to create instructions for things I just figured out for myself. I got to write all of it down. I've got the pattern drawn up. I've even got it set up so that I can digitize it, do a little bit of an easy adjustment in Photoshop. I'm kind of dreading the idea of having to type up all the instructions for it. I'll probably just release it as a digital file for people that are interested. All right. I'm glancing down. #1 viewer badge. Well, that's interesting. There must not be a whole lot of people doing things right now, huh? I don't know if anybody's a follower of mine already. I do make a lot of different plushes, but currently I am focusing a lot on the mice plush because I'm getting a lot of orders of them. But very soon I hope to start doing some new stuff on live. I'm a fan of Pokemon. I'm a fan of just making monsters. So what's probably going to wind up happening is sometime very soon, double checking to make sure that I've got the top up so that I can make the seeds facing the same direction. Very soon, I kind of want to start making some new stuff. But I've been thinking about that because one of the problems with making new plushes is there is a lot of failed work in it. I get some cheap material, some cheap cotton material, and I just start making something. And what winds up happening is like the first 10 times I make it is just not right. Sometimes it's just an edge looks wrong. The whole shape looks wrong. There's so many things that can go wrong with it that I wind up making like 10 different prototypes more often than not. Occasionally I'll get lucky with something and it'll turn out perfect really quick, but I have never had something turn out perfect on the first run. So what would happen is there'd be a whole lot of dead space where I'm just literally failing over and over again on live. And I don't know how much fun that could possibly be. So if you have any thoughts on that, please feel free to let me know. It'll help me make some plans, make some decisions. Can you show the finished mouse? Yes, I can. I actually have a finished mouse right here. They are built with a little loop on the belly so that you can actually put a hair clip or a clothespin inside of them. Here I've got my little clips right here. And you can actually wear that in your hair or on your clothes. Plus it has a loop right here for key rings. And these are all custom. The basic shape of the mouse kind of adjusts accordingly. I've made monsters and necromancers and wizards, but this is my little clown mouse. This is the little guy that I've got going for right now. And right now, the one I'm actually making is going to be a custom ordered strawberry mouse. I don't think I want to do 3 on this one too. I think I kind of want it to be asymmetrical. So we're done with 2. If anybody ever pays attention to the work that I do, you might notice that I am a big fan of asymmetrical stuff. I will put 2 on one side and 3 on the other, just like this. If you can, you can. If you can't, I understand. If you're able to stay, great. Especially since this is the one that you requested. Your little mouse is famous? I can't remember which. I remember the name. I'm trying to remember which mouse you got. Like, I recognize your name on here, but I can't remember which mouse. All right, so these will look good. Now, unfortunately, as little as I used it, I might be able to use this again. I'm very thrifty when it comes down to it. I do my best to reuse all my materials that I can. If you look in the distance here, there's a whole pile of material that I've cut off of stuff. I don't just throw it away. And depending on how much time is left when I finish, what I will wind up doing is hand stitching a little tiny mouse for you guys to look at. All right, so this request, what I like to do is I start with the ears. Okay, so this request was for a strawberry mouse. Get this out of the way. A strawberry mouse with galaxy print belly and inner ears. So I've got my galaxy print. Match everything up, face to face. Oh, almost forgot, man, that would have been annoying. I have to switch to a red thread. The truth of the matter is that I do not feel it is 100% important for every stitch to be a matching thread. So a lot of times I'll use a white thread for multiple colors or black thread for darker colors like greens and stuff. But there are times when I have the exact matching thread. So I will make the effort to do that because it hides really well. And the stitch does not exactly show up anyways. It's pretty tight stitched in there. Oops, gotta make sure I pull this nice and tight. But there are times when little bits of the thread will show up through the fur. And it's nice to know that I can just pick the right thread that will never show up in it. Okay. That wasn't too bad of a process. When I first learned how to sew, since I was teaching myself, every time I redid that, I would have to do it 3 or 4 times because I didn't know how to pull it tight enough. And what would wind up happening is the thread would wind up jumping and skipping and it wouldn't stay in. And it was so annoying to have to start so many pieces over because not only would that happen, but I didn't know it was happening. So I would do an entire plush and then realize I could pull the string out because I didn't set it right. Oops, I got too long of a stitch here. All right. So the needle wasn't moving very much because I had it set to 1. And it does not need to be. That is a very tight stitch. I'm thinking that's something that would be used for clothing. Maybe if I wanted this plush to last in a way that is ridiculous, I could use twice as much thread for it. And don't get me wrong, I'm doing everything I can to make these as well as I can, but there are some things that are overkill. And making as many mice as I do, I definitely don't need to worry about overkill. Okay, back stitch, of course. Make sure that is on the down, and then I will do my next ear. Again, I mark these because, look, it's just such a small piece that there's no reason to want to put myself in a situation where I sew it backwards. I used to do it all the time. I would sew the same side ears together, and it just would look wonky, and I couldn't figure out what I was doing. So now, all the little lessons I've learned, passing on to you, there's no reason not to mark it. Another thing is, I'm not pinning these because I've got the practice with it. But when you are first starting to make something brand new, I really suggest always pinning it. It's going to keep it from bunching up, make your stitch nice and smooth. I'm holding this the way that I am out of practice. But here in a minute, when I do some of the other parts, you'll see that I do actually still pin things. All right, now, I do the ears first for a pair of reasons. One, they are the most often piece that I have to restitch. Since I'm making such a small piece, there's very little allowance. So what I have to do is double check after things like this to make sure that there's no misseam. Sometimes this material gets caught in the feeders. So what winds up happening is it pulls it off and I don't wind up having a complete stitch. This is the next reason why I will sew them first. So this is the face. This is the top of the head. And these are the sides, which also are the bottom because it connects here. It's like a 3-piece face. These are so small that you cannot get a grip on them. It took me forever to learn how to stitch this because I kept trying to do these very small and I refused to make them bigger. But everything kept getting tangled up. So I'm lining it up. You can see I got the top piece marked just like I have the top over here. The top of the head is marked because it's such a similar shape that I've also sewn that to the side of a couple mice. All right, now A quick back stitch. Now I can use my ear that's still attached here to gently pull, and that actually allows me to feed the head in without it getting tangled. Now, I will do that with multiple different pieces since everything is so small. The ears are the easiest part to get right, and also the part that misses stitches the most, which, as you can see here, I did not, so I got lucky. But I'm going to show. I say lucky, but it's practice. It does make a bit of a difference. If anybody messages me with anything, and I reply to some of it, but not to everything, please feel free to send me a direct message. I'd love to know what it is that I missed. The phone is right here, and I am right there. So I am just to the side of the phone, unable to see where it's at. All right, so now that this worked, and I don't have to worry about making any repeat stitches for my ears, I can inside them out, get them ready. Let's see, here's one ear. But I can also start on my other pieces. And the reason I need to space this out is because I'm going to need something to pull that head again. Excuse me. Allergies here in Oklahoma are horrible. They are really trying to make me unhappy. All right, so first thing I'm going to do, this is going to be the loop on the belly. It doesn't need to be big. It doesn't need to be perfect. I don't even need to back stitch it because the edges are going to be off. But I definitely need to use it as a handle. Trim up some of this. All right, now, the second side of the head, what I will do is I will stitch from the back to the front, and then from the back of the head to the nose, and then the nose to the back of the head. And the reason I do that is because it kind of keeps it even, lets me know exactly where the nose is going to be, because this material does stretch just a little bit. And it is definitely easier when I keep the nose straight rather than the back of the head. Again, just a little lesson that I've learned from doing this myself. All right, see, now I've got this handle again. And with the shape of the head, I can slow down just a little bit, make sure that it's still following. There is a little arch where the eyes will go. At this size, it doesn't make much of a difference, but it does make a little bit of a change to the shape. Clean that up, inside this out so that it is ready. All right, that's going to be my little loop in the belly. Once again, this is what I'm making. The loop that I was referring to is the loop that the clips will go through. All right, now let's get some of this trash out of the way. And I've got fuzz everywhere, just absolutely everywhere. All right, since I still have more pieces to do with the head, I'm going to go ahead and stitch the body again so that I can use that as a handle. Now, one of the good things that comes out of having to restitch the ears is it gives me more chances to create handles for these small pieces. It's not super necessary, but on the occasion it's helpful to have a few extra pieces. All right, so a little back stitch, and now I will barely put the needle in. And for this, I'm actually going to put in a tiny jump ring. Really hard to see. I don't know where my camera's focusing. This it's shaped more like a spring instead of being an open jump ring. And the reason I do that is because I want to be able to have people wear this. I want people to be able to wear this as a keychain or a charm. So what I have to do now, get that little piece right inside here. My camera may or may not be focusing where it needs to. Halfway in, halfway out, so that the stitch, I'm going to gently pull, will actually go through, and I do multiple passes just to strengthen it up. I'll show you what it looks like in just a second when I take the body off. All right, now, I used to do this next stitch all at once at the end, but I've learned that if I just add the little bit to the front of the mouth, the nose here, before I add the ears, it makes it just a tiny bit easier. So I am literally just going to be stitching the very front to give it the downward drop. I can take this out. I have to double check my loop. There it is. Now, since this is a small piece, this is a not very heavy mouse, that's, as far as I can tell, that is plenty. It holds onto the key ring very well, and it hides in case they don't want to. Additionally, it's not so big that they can't just hold it. You can still squeeze this mouse and never feel that that's there, which is great. I love the idea of it remaining a soft plush at pretty much all times. And you can still just squeeze and not worry too much about it at all. Like, you'll notice it when you're holding it, but if you feel it and you're not looking for it, you might not even realize what you're holding. Just realized my arm's getting tired from holding it up over the camera here. Okay, now I've got that set up. I've got a couple of things that are going to be a little bit harder to do. And that's just because of the fact that the ears worked out really well. All right, on the belly, I have this line marked at the back, the center of the back. And the reason for that is because I want to make sure that when I sew this, that's my starting point. So I'm going to line up the back legs. This is also where I start using the pins. I have to line this up so that this piece will not interfere with the early stitch. I don't want it to get jammed up, and I can pull this out as I go. I will then put in the Galaxy strip, which will go right at the belly. Now, it does not have to be perfectly lined, since the pattern on the inside is not a very super recognizable pattern. With something where it blends in, like, you can barely tell. But if this were stripes, I would line up all the stripes and everything else to make sure that it hides as well as I possibly can. Now, the second leg, I will do the same thing. Now, when I stitch from here and down, I don't have to worry about this knob catching the needle, the press of the foot, nothing. And again, once I get to sewing here, I can slide this out. I will repeat that a third time. Same concept where I can pull it out as I stitch. I will make sure that the loop stays lined up, get my back foot. Now here, since this is where I start, wow, I cannot tell what is happening with the lighting. Maybe that'll help. Okay, since this is where I start, I can't put this in right there. All it'll do is land on here, pull it out, get jammed up, something. So for this one, I actually do the opposite. This way I can start sewing. When I get around to here, I can get to here, pull both these needles out, and I can just hold this in place manually as I sew. That's another one of those things that I had to learn as I was going because I kept getting in my own way. In case you're wondering, part of my problem is I keep forgetting to get a brand new light bulb for my sewing machine. I don't even know if they make them. This is an old sewing machine. So for the time being, I'm just kind of using a light that also is old. It's kind of what happens. Basically, I'm doing everything I can to make sure I'm doing things right within a budget. All right, so now make sure that this is pulled in here so it doesn't slide out. Got my full stitch in. All right. Start at the back. I will lay the belly, the back side, all the way back. Get my stitch so that when I back stitch, it'll go to that line. Take a nice little grip. Now, with such a small piece, you have to be very careful with how close to the edge you get. The downside is that you can't give the allowance you would give for a bigger piece. You're so close to the edge that if you're not careful, you're just going to wind up tearing everything. Side of the foot. All right, now I think, yep, should be okay. Line everything up. Excellent. Now, sometimes the fabric will bind up right there. And that's because it is small, and this fabric does have that little bit of a fuzz to it. But I've gotten a lot better at making sure it doesn't, or sewing it so it doesn't. I don't know what I'm doing different. I think it's just instinct now, as much as that could be. Okay. And so whenever I turn this and the material gets stuck, I just use a needle to lift it up. Keeps it from getting bound up. Again, pull the needle out. Start. Now I'm going across where the neck will be. Once again, I've got enough experience where it works out most of the time. But I used to have it bind every single time that I would stitch across the neck, when I would go from leg to leg. There's a lot of things that I have changed just from knowing what's going to happen. And I couldn't even explain it. I guess the experience is all that it really took. All right, make sure that the material stands up. I may have to go back over that again, depending on how close to the edge it is, but that's okay. I planned for that. Pull that needle out so that it doesn't get in the way again. Ah, see, there we go. Just got bound up. Now, it wasn't moving. The feed dogs, I believe is what they're called, were not catching it, which could be so many different things. I honestly don't know all the different reasons that could be happening. So what I will do is I will reset just a little bit, and I won't do a back stitch because it's all still part of the same stitch. And there we go. Just a little bit of adjusting. So over the loop. Well, I'm glad you don't have to go anywhere. But it would have been okay if you did. All right. Now you see how I had to hold that one in place to begin with? Now let's go ahead and cut the face off, which sounds absolutely horrible to say. Cut his face off. All right. Pull the materials just a little bit. Just a few stitches. I think it's actually about 3 stitches almost every time at the end of the foot. It's not something I have paid attention to in a way that it has to be done that way, but I'm pretty sure that's what wound up happening for quite some time. Okay, now this is the hardest part. That was the second part. Sorry, that used to be the hardest part. Right now, I am going to be putting the ears on the head. I've got a galaxy side and a strawberry side. Make sure I get everything pulled through. All right, now when you're doing this, there's no particular, since I have the pile going this way along the ear, that way people can stroke it this way. It doesn't matter if you have this up or this down or this up. It kind of just depends on how you feel. Now, if they wind up being symmetrical, you can see the bottom kind of looks like a lobe. But if you flip it, it just looks like a higher ear. So pick whichever one you want whenever you do yours. The next thing is I like to fold this down. Kind of gives it a nice ear shape in addition to just being flat. Kind of gives it a little bit of depth to it. I think one of the next adjustments I make to my pattern is I'm going to make this longer so that I have more space to work with. But I already have everything so close to the edge on so many different parts that it may not work better. Here's the face. I have this here. I have to make sure that I have the entire opening all the way through. The back of the head, I will try and make the fuzz rolling down. And I will also use the needle here, a pin here. Doesn't have to be super close to begin with, just as long as it ends where I need it to end. Okay. I have to make sure that I tuck this part of the ear in enough so that I don't accidentally sew it to the side of the head. This needle, I will put in the opposite direction. And I do this so that I can start the jaw right here. I can sew to this point and pull it out so that the needle nor the pin or the point of the ball catches anywhere and causes it to not feed through smoothly. So a little bit of back stitch. Again, I'm going to use this as a handle. Make sure I get a good follow the turn. See how it's already starting to catch there? Can't always reach it with my finger, but it comes out easy enough. Usually comes out easy enough. There we go. And I can continue to use this body. Make sure I get everything pulled nice and smooth here. Continue to use this to feed and pull. All right. Now, I have to check the body. I believe that this is the one that caught up on me. Let's see. Yep, that's the one. But I will use the small end of my stuffing tool, my chopstick, and just prod around, looking to see if there's any openings where I missed the stitches. More often than not, I've missed something. Something got caught. I maybe pulled it in a little bit too tight or brought it too close to the edge. I think what I'm going to do is this little edge right here, you can see how it's really close to the edge of the fabric. I'm going to go ahead and actually add a couple stitches there. Sometimes a kink like that will show up when you pull it inside out. Sometimes it doesn't matter, but it doesn't hurt to add a couple extra stitches anyways. So, a little back stitch, a little turn. And then I'm actually going to continue with this stitch. This is where it caught up on me last time, so it doesn't hurt to add a little bit of safe stitches into it. Okay, which also, fortunately, gives me another handle. The little mistakes kind of balance out in this piece. Everything being as small as it is, I wind up having so many things that could go wrong. And the more I can use the handle for the head, the better off I am. See, right here, I did not bring this close enough to the edge. So that's something else I'm just going to have to fix. And that's not a problem, just lets me know. So it's probably stitched on one side, but it did not stitch on this side. You can see my stick goes right through it. So I'm just going to go ahead and fix that real quick. This is just right at the base of the ear. And do a little lift, make sure that my ear is not going to get caught up in it. All right, let's see how that works out. All right, now, one of the things is that since I saved this for last, I can actually add the tail in here as well. I am pretty sure that all my stitches are good. So, let's see. Do you have a preference on tail? Do you want a black or a white tail? I don't have a dye that's green, so I'm thinking I'm going to give it a green tail and we can dye it later. Or I mean a white tail, and then we could just dye it later. What I use is just yarn for the tail. We'll have to dye it very carefully in the future. Maybe when I go out today, I will pick up some green dye so I can do that at another time before I send this to you. All right. Just a little tiny bit sticking out. All I need is a few stitches. That way I leave the back open for closing. Then back stitch it a little bit. Cut my head off again. Let's see, did I manage to get it on this time? Yes, I did. There we go. All right, fold this ear down. As you can see, it's a little unpredictable what's going to happen. That probably came up more because I missed that stitch. So what's going to wind up happening is I'm going to have like a curious look with one ear open, one ear closed. And I kind of like the idea of being a little bit serendipitous. It doesn't have to be all perfectly planned. So far, that's worked for me. But if anybody ever has a problem with that, please definitely let me know. If things have to be perfect, I can't guarantee perfect, but I can at least try for perfect. So I really hope that this looks okay in the end. All right, almost. There we go. Little back stitch. Use this as a handle again. Okay. Again, I'm not sure how much fun this is to watch. Sometimes things coming together is a pretty neat process. I'm not telling any great life stories or anything, so maybe that's kind of boring. Oh, see, double checking is a good thing. I had the little spot here that was coming out. And another one there. So I'm going to go ahead and add stitches there. Let's see, it is one on this leg. Oops, I just have to make sure I don't move too fast. All right, cut my head off again, double check this. All right. Got all the ear in that time. Okay, now one of the last things I will do is make sure I got all the jawline because it changes the shape of the head if I miss some of this. And I think I got it close enough. Okay, get this out of the way. That's going to be a problem later. I don't know how much of that I just did off camera. So here's how the mouse looks. It's got a little different here than there, but I like when stuff like that happens. All right, now, to help shape the head, what I will do is now sew underneath the jawline. Remember, I did that part early before I added the ears. I used to do this whole thing at that same time. The bulk caused by the ears causes me to not be able to control the needle quite as well. So what used to happen is I would sew to here, and I'd try and sew this, and I'd sew right off. And I'd have this big opening where the nose is supposed to be. So what I will do is I will put a pin in here. This doesn't have to be exact. A lot of that's going to be closed up when I do the hand stitching. And as you can see, even when I lift the foot up, the boot up a bit, it's hard to get in. Okay. Just a couple stitches. There we go. Okay. I believe I had one more piece that missed a stitch that I could only see from the back. Yep, there it is. Let me double check to make sure I got the other one I was looking at. All right, so here is where I missed. Now, sometimes when I miss this stitch, like right here, I will realize that I've got so much extra over here that it's better just to undo the whole thing. I have ripped the entire seam all the way across more than a couple times. And the reason is because it comes so close to an edge that when you sew this, there's no space left. You lose the leg when you inside it out. This, there's a lot of space in here. I've got plenty of room. I can actually stitch right along here and still be fine. It is sometimes better just to undo an entire line than it is to try and make it work. Sometimes it just doesn't work. Now, the funny thing is, every now and then when I fix a stitch like that, I won't fix it right. I'll still have to do it like 2 or 3 times until I get there. All right, here's the head. There we go. Not too shabby, right? And again, this is roughly what I'm going for. Of course, when I stitch them up, it'll change its shape a bit too. All right, let's see how this worked out. Double check, triple check, I suppose. All right, my seam is good. It's holding in place there. All right, looks like everything is holding. Now, something you can do is you can actually do a zigzag stitch across this whole thing. It would make it stronger, but the problem is that zigzagging all of this for every one becomes a bit of a hassle. I will still do it for delicate materials, like if the belly was silk, I would zigzag stitch it so that it doesn't come unfrayed. I'm cutting off the excess of the loop because I don't want it to get bulky on the inside. And the next thing is when you inside out the feet, these parts, if you leave it like that, it just becomes a knot on the inside. So I trim it ever so lightly. See how much space there is? That would all be bunched up on the inside. And it keeps it from feeling quite as nice. I know it's small. I know it's just the feet. But every little bit makes a bit of a difference. And to me, that made a big difference in the way I felt. Okay. Start insiding everything out. Doesn't matter what order you take this in. Sometimes you will discover as you put this one inside out that you also miss some other stitches. Those legs that I missed, that I fixed, I probably would have found them when doing this. And again, you could just bring it right back so you can put the outside back in and just fix your stitches. Not a problem. All right, I saw a loose yellow. I think I saw a loose piece of yellow. Maybe not. Okay, so now we got a strawberry body. I think that's going to look pretty nice. Not perfectly symmetrical, but not too far off. I mean, there's only so much I can do with it. All right, now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and sew in a nose. Do we have any thoughts for color of nose? Probably just a pink nose, you think? Yeah, I think I'll just do a pink nose for it. All right, now, and the nose work is a little bit difficult. If you look at this one, it doesn't look bad, but it has not looked like I want it to look yet. I've been learning and self-teaching how to make a nose with embroidery for a little while now. And I've done so many different things. I think I'm very close to it. Someone who does embroidery is probably laughing and thinking, hey, it's not that hard. Just do this and this. I've done I think it's called a French knot, where I have looped it around and just pushed it back in to create just a tiny dot. And it just doesn't fit. Pink is great. Awesome. I'm glad you liked the idea. And I'm glad that you responded too, because it let me know that it's going to work for you. All right, so now I will feed 2 ends. What I'm doing is doubling up my thread. And then I'm going to take both ends together. Now, I learned the hard way that if you just leave this loop, that sometimes your strings will not be even. You want to make sure you pull it nice and tight. I start at the needle, pull it all the way through so that each of these strands stays the same length. Then wrap it around my finger, roll, nice little knot. I don't want a whole lot of excess, but I don't care about there being too much because I'm going to feed it in. All the excess is going to be on the inside of the face. All right, there's where my nose is going to be. I will take one out. And then I will make a triangle around that point. So top to bottom. Just got to get it all the way through where I want it. This is a pretty big needle, which has a few downsides to it. Mostly being that it fits through stitches pretty well, but pretty big. So sometimes it'll pull them out. All right, so what I don't want to do is I don't want to make this loop completely hidden. Actually, that's the one loop that can be hidden. So, okay, now I'm going to start my triangle. Top left, I'll have the out to in. Sometimes I do wish I had a smaller needle because this one kind of starts to hurt after a while. I know I can get a thimble, but I don't like the way that they feel usually. And yes, I am using pliers because I don't want to hurt my hands. I don't want to be a sissy about it, but I still don't want to hurt my hands. All right. Try and get this lined up. There we go. Now I have to do here to here so I get my other side of the triangle. This is probably the more delicate part that I do just because I have to get everything to go in the right spots. I want it to go in at the bottom and come out at the same spot as my previous. And I have to be careful when I pull it so that I don't get it uneven, so I don't get anything tangled up. See, like right there, you can see I've got a few loose strands. So I'll pull those, see which ones they are, grab them independently and pull. That way I don't have to pull the entire cluster. All right, now the last one's going to be the top to bottom, and that'll give me the top of my triangle. It's very hard to see with this, I believe it's called a pile, but the fuzz on this fabric makes it hard to see these initial lines. And sometimes that fuzz will catch up in it, so I try to make sure that I pull out. All right, so now I think it looks like the only one you can really see is this top one, but the other ones are there. I'm going to feed from top. I'm not going to sew into the fabric. I'm actually going under these lines. And I will do the same thing over here. I just got to find where everything's at. Oh, there it is. And what this tends to seem to do for me is give me the actual shape that I want without making too many stitches underneath. Okay, now I'm going to go through the bottoms. I still haven't perfected this. This is something that I'm probably going to be working on for quite some time, unless somebody winds up giving me some random lesson that shows me how to fix this. But this starts to give me the triangle shape that I really want. Again, I got a couple loose strands here. Oh, I'm not even sure where those loose strands are. It's the way that's so loose. All right, I guess I got to prove that. I got to prove that I'm still here. There we go. It asked me to solve a puzzle piece. All right, I guess I'm just going to have to pull this along with these because I failed to pull something else tight. I really don't know how to kind of like fill this space because essentially I'm working to figure it out with each time that I do this. But as you can see, well, maybe you can see, I've kind of got the triangle shape that I want. It's not perfect. It's going to take some practice that I just have to do. But it's so much better than it was. It used to be just like a weird knot, and I hated it so much. And while trying to figure it out, it just got so aggravating sometimes. All right, come on. I saw that. There we go. All these little things just kind of seem to add up. All right, now I'm just going to go ahead and push this through. The intention is to make sure that I close up the knot. I want to make the closing knot on the inside. You know what? I need to make another stitch over here. That'll make me feel better. All right, there we go. All right, now close this off. Pull all the way in. I make one more outward stitch and then one more inward stitch. But I also have to make sure that I don't let all the thread come through, so I'm going to put my finger through here. Oh, see, it almost tried to lose me anyways. Feed this back in. My intention is to tie this off as a knot. Let's go ahead and pull that tight so my finger can hold it. Dang it, I keep losing what I'm holding. All right, now untwist this. Go ahead and wrap that. Just like I was closing off any other stitch. Pull tight. And there we go. Tiny little nose. Far from perfect, but so much better than it used to be. I really got to sit down and just stitch over and over and over and over again until I figure out how to get that to look exactly like I want it to look. It's breaking my heart that I'm not making a perfect triangle. And I just haven't memorized a pattern that'll work for it. All right, next I'm going to use safety eyes. Let me go ahead and get some needles put away so I don't stab myself. I'm pretty sure I just saw another one, but I lost it. Hopefully I didn't drop it on my floor. Don't want the dog to find that. That would suck. Okay. Safety eyes. These are hard plastic eyes. You can get several different sizes. I like this size for the mice. And then on the back of them is a washer. And you see it kind of looks like a screw. It doesn't actually screw on. These are just ledges. Points that keep it from going too far and catch it. All right, so here we are. I'm going to line up the eyes. I want one here. I use my seam ripper because I've got a little bit of control without having to worry about cutting too much. I got one here, one here. I have made more than a couple lopsided mice. I've done it on purpose and I've done it on accident. Okay. Oh, come on. I can see the hole. There we go. There we go. There we go. Just push it through. Attach the washer. See, that's what it does. It does not screw on. You just force it on and it catches at the lip. Now, I have seen people melt this plastic end. I don't really want to breathe in the plastic fumes. So what I do is I just cut off one of the nubs. That way I don't have to worry about anybody poking themselves while they're holding this thing. Okay, got that one through real easy. once again. Now you can't always get them down the same length. I do my best, but that is why I don't cut right to the edge of the washer. If I do, sometimes what will happen is it's not quite as tight as it should be. And without the extra lip, it'll just wind up coming off. And I haven't had any come off before, but that's partly because from the very beginning, I knew that that was going to be a problem. And here we go. Looks like someone's blessing someone. I'm guessing that's a scam, so be careful. I do have different color eyes. I actually have a few different color eyes. I don't use them very often because they're a little bit more expensive, and at the same time, not everyone wants a different colored eye. But give me one moment. I'm going to run over there. I'm going to grab a couple other eyes so you can see what they look like. So I don't work in my studio, and that's just because I like to be out where my family's at. So I have to run all the way back there for it. But I have a couple different colored eyes. Now, there are different sites where you can get different ones. There are some people who have different ones. And I will every now and then order some different eyes to make some different types of plushes. Like snakes or monsters or something like that. So it's definitely something that can be personalized and customized accordingly. I just saw you, Emberwind Song. You are definitely welcome to message me. I actually sell these through Etsy, and I sell them directly on TikTok. You can message me directly. That's where a bulk of my sales come from. People are just interested and they purchase through there. So if you do want one, we can customize one. Like I said, this one is a clown. And this one is going to be a strawberry. I've got a couple other things I'm going to do to it before I finish. I know it's a white tail now, but I'm going to buy some dye, and then I'm going to dye it green. So let's go ahead and start stuffing this guy. I've got just under an hour left before I have to go. I hope that this will not take that long, but I intend to make some other things to attach to this as well. All right. Stuffing is probably one of the least entertaining things, huh? Actually, the more I think about it, the less fun this must be to watch. All that fuzz. My floor just has so many different colors. It's almost like graffiti or glitter. All right, so because the eyes are in there, I have to make sure that I stuff the front to give it its shape. Otherwise, they tend to hold the stuff from getting into the back. All right, let's go ahead and put this guy right here. Now, as I was saying, I make these. I make custom mice. I make a lot of other plush too. But what wound up happening is somebody saw that you can wear my mice as a hairband or clothespin, and it went crazy. People just loved them. So I've been making a lot of these to fill orders, but I also make monsters and snakes and rats and bats, possums, and all kinds of different things. And I love the idea of making full custom pieces. So if there's something that you're interested in, you can talk to me and maybe I can actually make what you're looking for. You know how there are some sites that make custom plushes based on your kids' drawings? While I can definitely do that, I can also do it for adults. I know that everyone loves plushes. It's just so much fun to have plushes, and that's kind of why I started making them. And I have made nightmares and cuddly little foxes and all kinds of little things for all kinds of different people. I don't have a website yet. So the best that I have is an Etsy, but also I take orders through Messenger directly. And the reason I don't have a website yet is because everything costs money. And until I get just a little bit more successful here, I can't fully justify spending the money on a website. I know that it would be successful in its way. I do know that, but I have to be prudent as I can because every now and then I get too excited and I start doing something and I realize that's not what I should have done. One of the things I'm going to have on my website eventually will probably be patterns, a section where you can do customs. But for now, if you search the same name, The Versatile Deviant, on Etsy, you can find my listings. I'm definitely happy. I much prefer to take orders through Messenger. So just send me a message, and then I will work on some drawings for you, with some design ideas, get some pricing, whatever the case is. Because this one is a custom order specifically. The clown here, this little guy, somebody had an idea for colors that they wanted, and I wound up finding these materials, and I made 2 or 3 different nice options for them because I thought, hey, this is such a great color combo. I can make a few. They can pick their favorite, and it's not going to be a problem to put this somewhere. Now, nobody's bought him yet, but I'm also okay with the idea of holding on to him for a little bit so I can put him into a random blind box option, which I am working on as well because, like I said, so many different ideas, so many different thoughts. In case you're wondering, what I use for fluff, it's called polyfill, poly with an I. I find it at craft stores, and it comes about the size of a pillow, but it's really soft, and when you can add it to the fact that this minky material, this material is unbelievably soft. You might be looking at it thinking, oh yeah, it looks like soft material, but when you touch this, it feels silky smooth. It's got that little bit of fuzz to it. Aha! I knew I saw a little bit of yellow sticking out. Try to get away from me, eh? All right, now I gotta see if I can trim it without cutting too much of anything else. Just a teeny little bit. Oh, just a teeny little bit more. I might not be able to get him. Why does that guy seem like he's stuck in the fuzz? Oh, he might be. Oh, there we go. Got it. All right. Again, since this is so small, I like to stuff the feet first. And then when I'm doing the bigger part, I will actually repack it. Depends on what you get. So I have made a mouse that had I used Sculpey, and I sculpted a skull and made a necromancer mouse. That's on my TikTok feed. And I've put it in a hood and a cloak, and I made a wand for it. And those will cost more. Now, a simple mouse, just 2 different colors, no special material like this, no additional embroidery. That starts at $20. And that's just minky material and then a cotton material on the inside. After that, it's $25, and then it goes up according to how much custom work you need done for it. And I'll do as much as I can, and I will tell you when I can't. And I will keep you updated quite often, too. Basically, what winds up happening is I'll show you pictures as I'm going and kind of figure out the details from that. Okay, time to start closing this up. Working as fast as I can while at the same time making sure I get enough details in here. I do. I need better thread scissors. The scissors I'm using are thread, but I need the little nippers, the tiny little ones. That would help out a lot. And honestly, I used one time and it made such a big difference. Awesome. I just got a notification for the follow on Etsy. Thank you so much. When I get that. That's awesome. I really appreciate it. And always feel free to talk to me. I'm more than happy to talk out ideas to get you more or less interested in. I prefer to make you more interested. But if you send me a message and you're like, hey, can you do blank? I'm happy to talk about it and figure it out. See if we can do exactly what you want. Plus, I do digital art. And if you happen to look through my TikTok, you'll see that I have made sticker designs for some of the previous mice. And I have my own printer for that, so I can actually print out and send you a sheet of stickers for your design. When I say versatile deviant as part of my name, I'm quite serious. I can do leather work on these. I can do woodwork on them if need be. I love to create things, and I've never seen much of a reason in doing one thing at a time. The closest I've ever come is the fact that, I got to focus on what my orders are, because yes, I do want to make sure I make everyone happy. So I definitely have to make sure I at least keep up with what's going on, because as an artist, I've been known to become flaky. Like, oh yeah, I can do this for you. And then I forget while I'm doing 5 other things. A pair have a 1-inch blades, super sharp. They came with my fabric shears. I've seen those. This is probably metal, right? Like a nice metal pair of shears. They look so nice. And I'll be honest with you, the ones that I've got were like impulse buys at some craft store. So it wasn't even their top shelf shears. But I will definitely have to find some better ones just to make it a little easier on myself. But I don't know if you can tell, for the most part, since I'm doing everything with the hard stuff, I've just kind of made it part of how I work, kind of adjust to what I've got. I firmly believe that the tools can make the craftsman. But at the same time, I believe that you have to do what you have to do in order to get started. And if you're not willing to do that, why buy the heavy stuff to begin with? All right, so all I'm doing is just closing up the ends of this opening. I believe it's referred to as a ladder stitch, or possibly a zigzag stitch. And what I'm doing with the cap of my pen is I'm making sure that between the stitches, I actually have the fabric pushed down. I will now go backwards and do an additional stitch, because sometimes it is, as you can see, the cap fit in it. So obviously there's a big gap between the 2 stitches. I do my best not to, but there's only so much I know how to do at a time. And even at 1/4 of an inch, like a few millimeters, there's that space that comes through. If you ever buy a plush and you look on its back and you see there's a weird zigzag point, you could probably fit something in the middle of that, just like I did with the cap, because that's where they closed up their stitch. All right, the final stitch will be the other side. Oh, is that an opening? Is that a big opening? Yes, it is. Oh man, I definitely need to make sure that's closed up. So one fun thing about watching me do this is you'll see a lot of amateur mistakes that I've learned to solve. I haven't learned how to not make them sometimes, but I've learned how to solve them, which could help when you are learning how to stitch your own. Sorry about the coughs. Again, I have Oklahoma allergies, and even though the weather's been cold most days, the plants get confused. Okay, got that tied up. I will feed this in where it came out, and then bring it out of random spots. And then I will clean up this edge. So the fuzz gets stuck in the stitch. And if I do this, it really helps to hide where the edge is, where all the stitching was done. Oops, see, that sucks. Can I pull that tight enough? Nope, that's just there, cutting it off. I'm not happy about that, but that has to happen sometimes. I don't know if that was from the machine stitch or from my hand stitching. So now I've got to double check to make sure my hand stitch isn't going to come undone either. And like I said, all I'm doing is pulling out the fuzz. Just a gentle scrape, essentially. And what'll happen is that will make this seam almost completely vanish. Looks pretty nice. definitely not perfect. I'm not sure if I've just got missing some of this fuzz or if I've done something else wrong. Looks so far like I just missed some of the fuzz. Definitely a little bit harder to see some colors. But you can see how it essentially just disappears underneath now. I'll also do the same thing here. I like to clean up the edges as best I can. Let me get this at the right angle so you can at least see what I'm doing. Oops, here we go. There we go. So the fuzz will get trapped underneath the stitch while out sewing, of course. And if I do this little bit of tender care, I think it looks nicer. I've talked to people that said that they actually love to do this when they get their own plushes because it lets them know that they were the first person to play with it. Because, of course, if you get it from a store, they're not going to care enough to go through and do little things like this. Not that that's super important. It's just, why would they care about that? That's not a thing to them. Almost. All right, there we go. Now, I can cut this off. Once again, I'll wrap this around my finger, tie off the end. That way I don't lose it later. All right, I think that body looks good. The galaxy print. I hope the galaxy print still looks good. It's such a small space that it's kind of hard to tell what will or won't look right. All right, so now what I'm going to do, move these guys out of my way just a little bit. Here we go. I'm going to try something different. Since this is a strawberry, I've got this material that I have from a plush that I failed at. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this loose. Waste not, want not. It was supposed to be a narwhal. All right, now what direction does my fuzz go? Down. All right, so what I'm going to do, I want to make a leaf. So let's go ahead and make a decent size sketch here. Now, one of the things is that you'll probably see a lot of people talk about what you use to mark what you're making. I've used the soapstone. I've used the chalk. On this material, it just doesn't show up. It just rubs right off. So unfortunately, I have to use a pen. I know that also means that when someone washes this, that it could come off, but it's also such a small amount that even when I've washed these, nothing has shown up. You also have to keep in mind that when you sew these up, you're going to lose about this much on the edge. So whatever you want to make, you have to make it bigger by about 1/4 of an inch than what you actually want it to be. My hope is that this is big enough that I'll be able to do what I want. Okay, now, once again, my fuzz goes down. Get this out of the way. Fuzz down. Okay, now, to get the other side of it, I will just flip here. And I will trace this part of the leaf. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. The good news is that because it's just kind of an on-top leaf, I don't have to worry about there being a very strict shape to it. If I were to be making this and I needed it to be repeatable, what I would wind up doing is drawing it out on a piece of paper, cutting that paper out so that I can just flip that over for each side of the pattern. So I'm not willy-nilly all the time, but I am often nilly or willy. All right, now I will pin this together. It's just going to be easier than having to over try this. As you can see, the two sides are not perfectly matched. And again, that's because I'm not super worried about it being perfect. I just need it to be a certain size. And worst case scenario, if it winds up being too big, I can just come back and sew it again. All right, let's get some of this stuff out of the way here. What I'm going to do, I have a green thread that I'm going to use. Get all lighting out of the way here. Yeah, that should be fine. I got about 20 to 30 minutes to finish this up. And with luck, that should be plenty of time. Now, if I were just doing the leaf itself, I'd probably be fine using like a black or a white. I would definitely use the green when I have the option. But because I don't buy infinite threads to match all my materials, sometimes that just doesn't happen. And here, I actually happen to be lucky enough to have both the thread and a spool. A spindle? Spool? I can't remember the word for it all of a sudden. Why the extra loop on the belly? Oh, one moment, please, and I'll show you. The extra loop on the belly was my ingenious idea to make this more versatile. I say ingenious as a joke. I'm just kind of casually laughing about it. All right, so here is a finished one. Let me get some stuff out of the way. What you can do is attach a hair clip, and you can wear it in your hair. Or I have several of these as well. A clothespin, and you can wear it on your shoulder. Take it on for adventures with you. And it was such a simple little addition that I didn't really have to change the pattern in order to get it to work. All right. Okay, now. Oh no. Let's see, am I going to be able to get this in here? Yes, okay. My intention here, find my pedal, a couple extra steps, back stitch. In case you're wondering, yes, you can sew right over the needles. If your stitches are too close, it might hit your needle, it might break. But if not, then you are fine. As you can see, I brought the stitch quite a bit in from where I actually drew it up. And that's because I can always cut it loose. I pull this out. Okay, just a few more. Get that out of the way. I gotta leave just enough so I can pull this inside out. Okay. What I'll do is I'll cut off a lot of this extra. I'll also cut down to the point. Not all the way to the point, but pretty darn close. Just like with the foot, I'm going to cut this excess off so that it does not hinder the shape when I stuff it. Now, if you were doing some other type of sewing project, you would not want it this close to the edge. I know that, so if anyone's watching and you're a professional at this, I assure you I'm aware. I'm working on something so small, there's a lot of little things that I do that I wouldn't do with other types of projects. Some things just take a little bit of different types of adaptation. And with this, I just found it was easier to risk that in a lot of different ways. All right, come on, let's get this inside out here. As you can see, being so small, it does add a lot of little issues, like insiding it out. Right-siding it out? Yeah, right-siding it out, not insiding it out. All right. Okay. Little leaf. I'm actually going to go ahead and stitch that closed. I've got several steps I'm going to be taking here, but I didn't leave enough material to be able to just sew it closed with a machine. So what I'm going to do is another quick closing stitch. Again, I think it's called a zigzag stitch or a ladder stitch, one of the two. Don't quote me, because I ain't said shh. All right. Okay, now, make sure this is all in. Get my needle in. Oops. All right, that's one of the problems with this bigger needle. Sometimes the hole that it makes causes me to wind up pulling the entire knot through. So to fix that, I'm going to go back in at the same spot. I'm near enough to it at least. And bring this between my threads. Oops, don't tie a knot. There we go. There we go. That gives me a good start. Let me cut this so it doesn't get in my way. All right, that just gives me just enough to make sure that it holds and it doesn't pull through when I'm stitching. See? Everything in, tucked that in real quick. Just a real quick closing stitch. Such a small opening means I don't have to worry about too much about being too tight with it. I just have to make sure that I get it in and out properly. This fuzz is making my nose itch today. Ah, so many itchies. Get the fuzz out. Tie this off. There we go. Feed it back through one last time. And there we go. Now, what I'm going to do is try to make this look a little bit more like a leaf, with just a little bit of embroidery. I'm not going to make a wide stitch. I'm not sure this is going to work. The truth of the matter is I may have to go through an extra couple steps to get this to work. Mostly out. Turn it around. Oh, look. Came out pretty nice. All right. Foot down. Get rid of my zigzag. Oops. I forgot that I am on the side here. Let's try and... Okay. There's one. I got so much thread, so much stuff in the way. I don't have a whole heck of a lot of space here. I probably should figure out more space for lives, but I figure the truth of the matter is, with everything being such a small product that you guys are watching me build, that I don't need to be too far away. All right, so that's one vein. Start again here. Oops, nope. Bring this to my previous set. 2 stitch. Get another grip on the thread again. Yep, that came through nicely. Truth is that I'm not particularly great at embroidery. I've only recently gotten to the point where I can make somewhat smooth lines, which is a bit of a bummer, because if I could do it really easily, then I could make patches and eyes and all kinds of different things. But, you know, learning process, eventually might get there. One more side to do. I think I'm actually going to do it on this side. As far as I'm aware, it does not make a difference because it shows through on both sides. All right, a little bit. I'm going to trust this one. Close it off. All right. What do we think? Does that look like a leaf? Add that to body. Do I look like I got a strawberry? Any thoughts? Should I go around the outside of this too? Do you think I should go around the outside with just a stitch to kind of make it hold the form just a little bit better, or do you like it as is? Clean up some of my fuzz here. Said before, this fuzz just goes absolutely everywhere. All right, good this way? Awesome. Okay, now the next question is going to be, do I want to come out of the side, almost like a cape, so the strawberry comes out, or do I want it to come out of the head? I don't think I like the head. Yeah, I think that on the head, it's too much. Maybe I can do it on the back. Let's try this. Yeah, I agree. The side is definitely cuter, right? It's almost like a scarf or a cloak. I could also do it on the back. Just a little bit to the back, not perfectly centered. Side? Okay, we'll do it on the side. Okay, now, sometimes, like if I'm doing a collar, like this guy has a collar, I will stitch all the way through. So the collar is between the head and that with one stitch. I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to attach the head and then attach the leaf. I'm just going to tuck the leaf into the neck. And if it doesn't work, I'll just undo it and try again. Easy enough. So, got to close up the head. Okay, got to get this done quickly. All right. Now, I like to sew along the jawline just a few stitches. It helps to reinforce the shape of the mouse's head. I used to make the back circle very much smaller. This part, And what happened was it made it so hard to sew that nothing ever turned out the same. It was constantly inconsistent and uneven. So what I did was I increased the size of this, and I did it more than what was needed. Not by a massive amount, but just enough so that it gave me a little bit of leeway. And the relevance to that is, even if this stitch right here is not quite perfect, I can always tuck in some of the back of the head like that, depending on what happens. And since I'm hand stitching it, I don't have to worry about the machine taking off and doing anything else with it in the process. I want to keep this out of the ear. All right. This is going to be hopefully a real quick stitch. Like I said, I've got just a few minutes left. With any luck, we'll get all the way to the reveal. I would hate to have to stop so close to being done. Now I don't mind the idea of not completing something on here. This is about the same amount of time it takes for me to do this no matter what I'm doing. There's a few brief stops that I've had, but those have been almost nothing. I'm probably check my phone or take a bite to eat just as much if I was just working. I am working a little bit faster because I'm on and I don't want to be boring. But I'm also pretty sure that unless you're specifically interested in this, this is not all that great fun. I'm trying though. I was so afraid to go live because I thought, oh, I have to have a script. I have to have everything perfectly figured out. And then one day I was like, you know what? If I just start, even if it doesn't work, at the very least, I'll know what doesn't work. To be honest, it was the same thing with TikTok in general. I was afraid that I had to have a plan that was super perfected. And one day I was like, you know what? That's it. I'm filming something. I'm sure some of my earlier videos are just as goofy as my later videos, but at one point in time, I got direction enough to just kind of roll with it. Pull the fuzz out. You don't see the seams in the bottom very much, but it makes me feel better to know that I did it. All right. Where's he at? Pretty much centered. All right. This stitch is not all that dissimilar from when I close up a stitch. But at the same time, I think it's a little bit more chaotic because I'm not running a straight line. And you can see that basically what winds up happening is I get just all over the place. Gotta find. Oop, that was close to just stabbing right in my thumb. That would have been absolutely horrible. Ta-da! I will also do a few extra stitches just to make sure, of course. Additionally, while you're kind of adding the head on to anything like this, you find that it winds up being uneven at times, and you kind of got to pull it in different ways just to make it look right. Now let's see what kind of expression we got. That's a nice expression. I'm going to start stitching the other way now. And I do this so it kind of reinforces where the thread's at. All right. Tie this off. Okay. Happy little mouse. Got my thread on the side here. Let's go ahead and start immediately sewing on our leaf. Going to have to sew this into the jawline as well. Try to get it as close to the edge as I can. And get my pliers, my handy dandy round nose pliers. All right, what do we think? Do we like this? Got his own little kind of caped. Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Okay. A couple more stitches. We got to make sure he's good. It's not going to come off on us. Ah! Thread caught on the ear. Come here. There we go. Just a couple more stitches. It's going to make me feel so much better if it's secured, super secured. Come on. Try not to smack my camera while I'm doing this. All right, get nice and tight. All right, so I kind of want it to come down just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is these next couple stitches, I'm going to send them just a little bit down the body. That'll help keep it a little bit low instead of flying up all the time. See, just like that. I also think I kind of want it to go to the side just a little bit. So I'm going to scrunch this up. Okay. All right, let's see what we got here. Okay. I definitely wish I had a green stain for that tail. I might not have had time to do it on the live, but I think it would be worth it. Probably going to go ahead and go get some green stain before I come home with my son. All right, what do we think? Yeah, see, I did the stitching on the bottom roughly in the same way because it keeps me from having to worry about the red showing up. All right. Yeah, basically, it's just all stitched underneath. Pull that nice and tight. Ow! Son of a gun. Okay. Okay. What do we think, folks? We got a little strawberry. Ah. Yeah, I know. Stabbing myself is always so much fun. And I've even got, let me see if I can find it here. A green hoop. Well, maybe that's blue. That's definitely blue. Here's the green. Now he is a little head heavy, so he does hang this way. It just means he hangs like a strawberry. He's too cute, start over? What? Well, I guess I'll throw him in the trash then. If he's just too cute. All right. So when you order a custom mouse, you get the loop on the back, and you get a few options for how to wear it. We have this that comes off, this loop, which you can put a hair clip through to wear. Maybe hold it in place with some bobby pins. I have a clutch pin that you can use to put it on your clothes. I have clips, and of course you can find your own clips, whatever works best for you and your hair. And pins. When you order from me, you get one of all three. No, not each type, but you get this or this, and one of the two of these. As part of it, I can also draw up some stickers for you. Get your own custom stickers with it. As you can see, I am happy to work on figuring out how to make a mouse look exactly like you want. Well, hopefully exactly like you want. At the very least, I will make the attempt. A little strawberry mouse with seeds. Galaxy print. All soft. Oh, I put it into the incinerator. Don't worry. Versatile indeed, as part of the name. All right, folks. I'm very sorry to have to just cut off and go. My son will be getting out of school very soon. He's just a little one. So I've got to make him a snack on the way home and get him some juice and get everything ready. I really hope you had fun watching. I will be posting highlights and sections from this. Message me anytime if you have any questions or requests for another live or other ideas. And you guys have a great day. Thank you so very much.